we continue our conversation, then still focusing on local government. DA Councillor Tyrone Gray is the newly elected mayor of Mogale City. It's after the EFF voted for Gray, which saw him take 44 votes compared to the ANC candidates that managed to secure 33 votes. And in fact, he's joining us in studio tonight. Tyrone, I imagine, like many, or you can tell me yourself actually, were you, like some of your fellow colleagues in Ekurhuleni and in the city of Johannesburg, caught by surprise? Did you end up going home being the mayor-elect when that was not what you were expecting at the beginning of the council sitting?
Indeed. Good evening, Kathy. Thank you. It was actually a total surprise. In politics, they say always hope for the best, but plan for the worst. So once we managed to secure a speaker, thereafter we voted for mayor, and we've also secured the chief whip. So we have the entire triumvirate in Mogale City. I just want to perhaps correct the vote allocation. I actually achieved 45 votes, and the ANC candidate, Lucky Sele, achieved 31 votes. The 44 votes and 33 votes was in relation to Councillor Alderman Jackie Panel, our Speaker of Mogale City. Okay,
so let's talk then about the configurations, because ultimately you're going to be in a position where you have to watch these numbers in order to be able to run an effective government when you're passing budgets, when you're passing bylaws, whatever changes you may want to bring into place. So in terms of who exactly you are going to be relying on, how do you see the structure of governance playing out over the next 5 years?
All right, so you're detailing the section 160 subsection 2s of the Constitution. These are the passing of budgets, raising imposition of tariffs, the raising of loans, and the passing of bylaws. These require a majority of the seats, so 50 plus 1. In Mogale City's case, it's 39. Since it's a hung council, no party has any ability to govern by themselves. So all parties would require an agreement or coalition of some sort in order to pass budgets. In order to facilitate the budget passing in Mogale City, what we are going to do is consult broadly with the community as well as all the political role players and stakeholders, so that the budget we're going to be crafting is actually a community-based and driven budget. So any party that's going to be voting against the budget is not only going to be voting against their own inputs in its facilitation, but actually the needs and desires of the people of Mogale City. And I hope that this will appeal to their sense of constitutional responsibility that they have as elected councillors.
Given how broad you're talking about consulting, is this not going to be a process that in the end may fail, given the fact that you're going to have very divergent ideas just based off of the parties that exist in council right now? Parties will want to spend money on different things, and that's just why every party has its own manifesto, has its own list of priorities.
Indeed, 100%, Kathy. It's going to be a very difficult. However, I believe that in Mogale City, we have the necessary political maturity in order to put specific party affiliations or personal agendas or private interests aside for the benefit of the city as well as the residents. Also, I believe we're reaching a stage in South Africa where we are discovering a lot more commonality between parties. Regardless of the actual differences in the manifesto, when we ideally look at the objects of local government as Section 150 details, we notice that the sustainable provision of services, promoting safe and healthy environments, as well as social and economic development of our communities, is something that the Constitution mandates upon local government. And as we know, local government is the coalface of service delivery. Its priority is the basics, it's the water reticulation, it's sewage, it's refuge, it's electricity, it's the public transport networks.
So part of what you're talking about is an ideal world scenario. All parties come together, you all agree, rands and cents, exactly how the budget allocations should be. What happens in an imperfect world where there are disagreements about how the money is being prioritized in terms of the budget, and you find yourself in a situation where you ultimately have to be able to do your jobs? Who are or which are the parties that you are going to be relying on to have your back, so that you're not consistently having to go around to get consensus amongst everybody just to be able to do the basics?
All right, so the unfortunate circumstance in politics is no one actually has your back. It's difficult to have a full trust relationship. It's a very rare currency in politics, trust, indeed. I don't know of any formal agreements that we have in Mogale City. And indeed, it is going to take consensus as well as compromise. However, we are going to stick to our principles. And should that mean that it results in us finding ourselves in the opposition benches so that we ensure that we are effective opposition as well as crafting credible cashback, surplus generating budgets, then that is what needs to be done.
I would imagine that you're not going to give it up that easy. So give me an idea of who you're talking to right now to ensure that in a month's time you are still the mayor of Mogale City.
So we're talking to absolutely everyone. I've actually had very successful engagements with everyone, and it's actually been quite a pleasant experience so far. I've had a lot of support from all the political affiliations, and in fact many of them expressing a very refreshing amount of political maturity. I believe that perhaps Mogale City can be the textbook case of how cooperative governments can actually work.
What are some of the key things that they're saying to you?
So one of the burning issues in our communities is addressing the developmental backlogs in Mogale City, in particular collaborative and sustainable housing developments. We also have a plethora of informal settlements in Mogale City, over 100, given our location in between Tshwane, Northwest and Johannesburg. The formalization of informal settlements is incredibly important, not only to realize a dignified existence for our people, but also so that we can adequately maintain infrastructure as well as budget. For instance, water tankering costs Mogale City about 47 million rand a year. It is far cheaper and sustainable in the long term to roll out pipelines so that people can have indoor plumbing and portable piped clean water.
When it comes to the approach that you have over how exactly Mogale City should be run, how much of it right now is dependent on you in terms of these relationships that you're building at a local level, and how much of it will be directed by what you hear coming from the national leadership of the DA?
So it would be 50-50, I would say. And not only the national leadership of the DA, but we'll also have to consult with the national leadership of the other parties in their relevant structures. And it's very important to realize that we do this first and foremost to improve South Africa, and in this particular case, Mogale City. And I believe that finding the commonality between the parties, no party is going to vote against a budget that actually improves service delivery.
Tyrone Gray, he is the mayor-elect of Mogale City, and so that is his approach to ensuring that there will be a stable government where he is, of course, going to be the man in charge, and we'll have to wait and see exactly. He describes it as wanting Mogale City to be a textbook case of how coalition governments can actually work, and so we'll have to wait and see how things there unravel.